and allow the character to come upon you without, like infringing my own sort of I don't know, not ideas isn't the right word, but it was just like it was so because we were both talking about how this scene had kind of been not like intimidating us, but it's exciting and there's a lot and there is sort of abstract with the writing. So like to just kind of pick like allow something to come upon you and just go with it and not question it. That like lack of inhibition with the impulses was really fun.
I think that's really, really well put. I think especially with something like that, that has a certain insanity to it, the less you try to analyze it, the better. The analysis of it will come upon you. You know, find the character
Yeah.
first, let the character speak the words, and then you find the insight. So, other thoughts from people? Anything special requests? Any needs that you have in this difficult time?
One thing I was just realizing, I was reading through I was doing some checkoff on the ground like we had practiced in the one-on-one session.
Right.
And I realized that because I had done I watched one of our videos and then I was like, okay, now I'm gonna try and read this, and because I really struggled with the ground, everything with the ground. So I laid down and I noticed that when I started to try and invest in it, my voice would get higher, and I was like, oh, this is a thing that I do. And then I was thinking back and I was like, yeah, that's a thing that I do. I like everything tighten, but I don't want to say that's the thing I do and just rush it off. But I did notice that, and am now trying to think about why that happens, or what mechanics are at play that have caused that.
Okay, I have a lot, as you might imagine I would, to say about that. But let me hear from somebody else. Hearing what Nick says, well, how would you, if you were teaching him, or what would you say? What was going on for him that caused that to happen? Just whatever comes up into mind. Don't think about it too much, but feel how he was saying it to us. Feel in your own body what that might have been. Yeah, Josh.
I think that I've had the same thing before, and I think maybe it's about breathing, about the allowing the breath in and allowing the breath, the diaphragm to letting go of the tightening around the abdomen area and allowing the diaphragm to do the work of fully expanding and allowing the breath to come up, as opposed to the work, because that's me sometimes too. And I'm realizing with singing as well, it's easier to think of the diaphragm as doing the work as opposed to the throat, in the same way that how Nick is saying that yeah, the throat is doing a lot of work because of the diaphragm.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. You know, on Friday, I'm going to be doing a workshop. I was asked to do a workshop from our big national Alexander organization, the American Society of Teachers of Alexander Technique. And last year, our conference, which was actually held at Columbia, amazingly, was on diversity. And this year they asked me to give a workshop open to everyone, not just Alexander people, on how to protect your voice when you're protesting. Right? And so that's very interesting. And then, it'll be a sort of free will donation. It will go to the Judy Leibowitz. And Judy, she started the classes at Juilliard. Their fund, diversity fund, to give scholarships to, people to train. So it's an interesting thing, thinking about that. How do you present this to people, right, who've never had any voice work, Alexander work? And I think what Josh just said is excellent. So what I'm thinking of, and Nick, this will be a little bit of an answer to your question, then we'll do more, is that what I love to see is that people are dancing. Now, why would that be important?
In a group.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a terrible example, but yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is. If you can get, so what happens when we get, and this is what happened, what Nick is saying, when we get excited, we go here. excitement is upper body. It is a disconnect from here. Well, you can't teach people how to come from here, although I think that you know, the greatest leaders we've had have come from a place of being impassioned. Now, I've said this a lot. I don't think it happens so much these days, but, you know, when I was training and around and, you know, had Shakespeare teachers, and of course, this was dear to my heart through the, you know, era I grew up, but, you know, we listened to speeches of Martin Luther King to teach us, right? I mean, I didn't need that teaching. That had moved me so much, right? But that is all coming from that place of intention, integrity, courage, change. So in thinking about doing this workshop, and I want to talk, you know, do a little tad of physiology on what happens when you do misuse your voice and scream and how that spreads the vocal cords. They can't phonate. Over time, if you were to do it, it would severely injure the vocal cords. So, you know, have that. But I also maybe, I'm not sure about this yet, I sort of want people to sit with these, what we call transpersonal qualities a little bit. Where do you feel it in your own body when you say those words? Like, you know, rage, courage, change. Those are higher qualities, and they're right through here. So, you know, that's more of the philosophical, spiritual, but physiological understanding of what invigorates the diaphragm to sustain the air pressure. So what I would say to them is go to your feet. Just what I say to you guys, right? Go to your feet. Can you feel if you're dancing, if you're feeling the time, if you're feeling the inner rhythm, you know, of the chant, you have a good chance that you are coming from a place of power and change and integration. I remember my very first Alexander teacher in Boston used to talk about the integrity of the torso. I thought that was such an odd word somehow to use. I didn't know whether he meant I didn't have integrity. I was very confused by that word, but it really does mean integration. Any thoughts about that from your perspective?
Oh, did you mean me or did you mean the?
Anyone. Sina, you were nodding like crazy before.
Yeah, well, that was just a very, it was very apt and interesting and timely analogy, I guess, because a protest I was at last week, I remember it's always moving when you see the really young people who are like middle school age at these protests. And there's been a lot that I've seen, and it took me a long time, because I'm not on the internet and social media and just haven't really thought about this before, to like understand all cops are bad, which is something that's like people are really like with, and I'm with at these protests. And it took me seeing this like young girl who couldn't have been like 12 or something, who at Capitol Hill was like so like every inch of her being was in this chant, and to the point where she was like jumping. She was like jumping on a step, and it was like through her feet. And she wasn't even like, it wasn't like she was screaming, but like it was her whole body, and it was like, wow, man, like, yeah, for me, it's like, because of privilege, I don't understand what that means, but for this person, it's like every inch of their body understands what that means because it's their life.
But I, you know, yes, of course. But I feel that part of our role as artists, I mean, I remember I was the shyest person on earth, right? I was so shy. I had a very dominant older sister. And yet 2 years in a row in high school, I won the presentation part of, you know, we had to write basically a theme. It was the citywide contest called I Speak for Democracy. And and 5 out of each school were chosen. And, you know, I was one of the 5. And then when I got up and I presented it 2 years in a row, and I basically talked about what was so important to me at that time, which was social issues, social justice, you know, integration. That was my era. And I won 2 years in a row, the presentation part of it. And everyone was shocked. It's like, Jean, because I was just like, as I could barely speak, right? But I could get up. And what that is, right? We don't have that experience, but we can enter into that. Josh, would you agree? Majita, would you agree? Right? And I think that what you saw in that whole body, I mean, that, sometimes it's like, you like doing that with people, right? You wake up already. But it's that fire in the belly you have to develop. And this is another answer to Nick's question. You start to develop the fire in the belly where your whole body is enlivened. You have to have that as an actor. Otherwise, it becomes excitement. It becomes a peer trying to play an idea. It's really an important thing, right? Any thoughts about that? Yeah, Mash.
I know I was talking with a couple of my friends yesterday, we had a call like from my boarding school, my high school, just like relaying all the crazy racist things we experienced and like just grew up with, because we're holding our school accountable. So we just wanted to, basically give each other feedback and like be like, do you remember this? Is this what happened? And there was an element, and like in the same vein as what Sina's talking about, and like also you're talking about that, like you can have all that passion and all of that, but it doesn't come out like you're screaming or anything like that. And I think it's because at the end of the day, when you're talking about justice and discrimination and we're talking about racism, to know that a Black person is valued just as much as any other person in the world is a truth. So because it's a truth, you can have that truth. There's a calmness and a peace that comes with that truth, So it's like, and that doesn't mean it doesn't develop and there's not like moments when you're going to be angry or like when you tear. It's just that even within all of those different emotions, all of those are sitting on top of truth. So there's an element of like safety that can still happen with your voice, because you're not like outraged and screaming because you're like trying to convince someone of a lie. You can be outraged and you can be raising your voice, but it's all based on truth. And I feel like your vocal cords feel the difference of that,
Yes, they
like
do.
when someone's really understood a problem. So yeah, I think like obviously emotions take us away, just like when we're performing, you have to catch yourself and watch yourself. And as an artist, like we can distinguish the two. But I think there is that beauty where it's like, if it really boils down to what you're talking about, your point is sitting on truth and just the justice for humanity. And it's like, that's not your voice won't want to even hurt yourself for that, because you're just trying to advocate that.
Well, I think that is as perfect as anyone could say anything. And I totally, you said it very eloquently, what I was trying to express. I absolutely believe that. Years ago, I had this guy in class, and one of my voice classes, and I was talking about impulse, life force, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, Jean, Hitler had that. And I said, no, he didn't. He did not have that. Did you ever see what he did? It was a down and a down and a down. There was that anger, but it was down. There is not what Majita was just talking about. It's a very interesting thing to say. I'll never forget that. And it was so upsetting to me for a moment. And then it occurred to me that no. Why he could whip people up into a frenzy was that sort of, going to a rock concert, a bad rock concert where it's just noise trying to incite people. That's really what it is, right? It's noise trying to incite people in those things rather than what Majita just said. That sense of that. Can be anger, of course. A righteous, King's letter from a Birmingham jail. I mean, that was not, that had anger, right? Those of you who read it? Pretty, very, 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 very powerful. But yeah. Any other thoughts? Majita, I can't thank you enough. Would you mind if I used that on Friday? What you said?
No problem.
This is very important. Anything else from anyone? So getting back to Nick, that I think what was happening was just what Josh was saying. You sort of got into the saying of the words, the doing of the, and you and I, we noticed that last week when you and Josh did the scene, where you were absolutely at your best was when you were in moment, the movement, and you were living the character, and then your voice was completely perfect. Anything else from that? Special request for today? Where are you with everything? Feeling, yeah.
Watching that video you sent us of Patti LuPone singing that brunch lunch song, it feels like there's an amount of space in her mouth that is like almost like her voice resonates through, and it kind of struck me immediately as soon as she just like kind of started even talking. It was before she was singing. Yeah, it was really like, wow. Yeah.
So give us an exercise, Sina, where we can practice that. What leaps into mind? Did I really mean it? What leaps into mind? First thing.
One of our singing exercises, or for some reason counting.
Right. You were Becky. Becky just writes, I was supposed to see the show. Wow, I'm amazed.
Oh.
Something else. Somebody suggest another exercise based on what Sina just said. Yeah, Josh. Oops.
Whispered ah?
Yes, whispered ah. Everything basically is a whispered ah. Now, the more connected, that's why I wanted to show you how the support, it reminds me of a relative, right? Adelina Patti, that this support of that whole body. And we're going to do it again on the table. And then I promise you I'll make a little practice video for you so you don't have to hear so much of me talking. But I'll probably talk anyhow. So everything expands. When we do, and we'll do it in a moment, the lying down work with the exercises, and that's how you have to start to think of everything that you do, any sort of exercises that you do, are you triggering this expansion of the whole thing? When we do whispered ah, you're opening up into the head. The stronger the diaphragm becomes, and Carl used to say this, it allows us to open into the head. That's where everything is found, in your dome. But you can't open up the head until this is developed. And by developed, I mean bringing it to consciousness, bringing yourself back to here, everything that you do. So you're never, that's what building technique is. You're never throwing yourself, casting your fates to the wind and just doing something. You have that clarity. Focus is not over focus, but you have that clarity of mind. Let's practice whispered on now. Just let that chair move you. We'll start with that, right? So that we're feeling that sense of being moved, right? That's lovely. You're not, and make the distinction. See, now your minds are getting very, very, very good. Making the distinction, sensing the difference between your physicality, you moving you, and something moving you. So when it's the something moving you, the something doing anything to you, you're in the core muscles, and it can be very subtle. That's very beautiful, people. See, it's a beautiful rhythm. Majita, that is awesome, right? It's a beautiful sense of flow and time. Yes, Josh, that's exactly right. Becky, that's beautiful. Riley, that's terrific. Don't look in. Jay, don't look in to see it. The more you can practice with the screen even, right? To give you a little on-camera work here, right? The more you can practice seeing yourself. At first it's very hard to see ourselves, and then you don't even see yourself anymore. It's not. At first it feels odd. It feels confrontational. Somebody used that word once in training, but eventually, no. And it's very important. So you can sort of see where you are. Are you doing something like this? Or can you be here? And with that spine. So then here we are. My feet, I just lifted my legs up off the ground a little bit to get that feeling of being suspended, buoyant. You can even let your arms come out a bit. so that you feel that sense of buoyancy, right? That sense of just. And if you start, here's another teaching tool, right? If you're looking at yourself, if you start to see the uplift in the cheeks, right through there. Remember, teachers always say, "Oh, we speak in the mask," right? But if you do something like this and that happens automatically, you know you are coming. I think it goes back to Majita. You're coming from the core. You're coming from your sense of self, the groundedness in the being. To me, is profound, right? If I'm doing something like this, then you see, and you see it, right? I'm doing it, or I'm looking in, trying like this, trying to see the right thing or trying to feel the right thing, rather than being totally present, totally present, totally present. So now let's practice our whispered ah. And you saw me do that. It was just to show you then that you just, the looseness of the jaw, you just bring it up. Let's do a series of them. So that you're feeling whispered ah, and then, this comes up, let's close, and air comes in. So you're just constantly sensing this quality of flow. Here we go. Lips closed. Lips closed. Let me do one more. Lips closed. Becky, that was really beautiful. Kyle, that was really, really beautiful. Becky, if you were going to teach this, would you guide us through it? Tell us first what the benefit of doing whispered ah is. And, if, people want to jump in and add, that's fine too.
It gets you into that grounded sense of flow where things just that flow place that everybody wants to try and achieve. Right.
And what is the physiology? What is happening in the body when you do it?
Your breathing.
Better wording from my part. What creates the sound that we hear that we've identified as whispered ah?
Well, it's technically the air coming up and out, but it has to be coming from the impulse that triggers the psoas, which triggers the diaphragm, which then makes its way over, and it has to come through that way, or it's just going to come from the throat.
Great. Anyone else want to say anything? Because I want to add one more element that I think is really crucial to understanding. How we open determines the automatic engagement of the diaphragm. How we open, so if we are literal in opening, nothing gets engaged. But the moment we open up, the smile behind the eyes, right? This thing instantaneously gets engaged. It is sustaining air pressure in the lungs to send air through the vocal cords. Out here we hear a sound, which we identify as sounding like a whispered ah. So that's a practice, right? You stand in front of your mirror and you figure out, do I do that, or how do I open in such a way that this jaw just hangs? So the jaw is not involved. It's not something like pushing like that. You could do it, and not so good. So I think that's a very important part of the work, is to understand opening up. Maj.
I just realized we had a song in my high school choir and it started with a whispered R, but that's not what we called it because we had to make like wind. We were supposed to sound like a rainforest to lead into the song.
Wow.
And then he would get so mad at us, but I feel like if we had this explanation, it would have gone so much quicker. But this is what he was trying to explain, but he was just like, breathe, but I don't want to hear you, but like, be soft, but there must be sound.
That is really, really, really great. What do you remember what the song was, who the composer was?
No, but I'm gonna think about it. But I also think it might have been a South African song.
Oh, wow.
But I'll think about it.
Yeah. So let's try one more time with that in mind. That, you know, how we enter into it, right? How you define it for yourself. You say, I'm opening up behind my eyes, and you discover the spontaneity of connection with the diaphragm. And instantaneously it comes out. So that's really the key, right? The instantaneous, the spontaneous engagement of muscles without you going through a lot of processes to try to get there. And then once it's coming, you can let the jaw hang and just be in that headspace, right? That's exactly right. So that big old open head that we want. Yeah, Tenny, that's great. Great, beautiful. Let's unmute and do just a little bit of sound with it. I'll unmute you all. And let's play with Beautiful, really very beautiful. So, you know, you can play with range and say, okay, I'm doing whispered on now. I'm just going to keep opening and opening and opening and opening and opening and opening up. To find, I'm opening up into the head, I'm opening up into the head, I'm opening up into the head, rather than I'm trying to do range from here. So let's keep opening up into the head, opening up into the head. See where it takes you. Don't try to take yourself there. So you're just observing, whoa, look at that. You know, how you can go up there. Best ever. Best ever. That was absolute focus of voice. Best ever. Let's do it one more time. If, you know, live with this a little bit because it really teaches you a lot about where voice is focused. Wowie. That was just terrific. Let's do it one more time. If it feels pleasurable and explorative, like you're just making discoveries and you love making those discoveries, you know you're right. That's the key. If it feels like an exercise and it feels like you're doing an exercise for some result, you're not coming from the right musculature. That's going to have to be your guidance that you use all the time. Now we'll do, let's do some. Carolyn is ill today. She was going to do something. So whoever wants to do something later, we can. You can, or we can just do some sonnets or something. So if it's comfortable for you to get on the floor, let's do it. And just, well, let's continue our discussion of coming out of the core muscles of the body, the psoas diaphragm, and how in everything that you do, are you stimulating that? So the first thing I want to do, let me get my little headrest. The first thing we want to do is our foot flexion. So, you know, I'm so insistent that you know how to teach these things in practice. So do the not so hot. The not so hot would be an idea, flexing like that. It's an idea, you know, so you don't have much thought there. But then we want to shift and go into something that is coming from the psoas. When you lie down, put your hands on your ribs and feel the emptiness. Feel the roundness of the rib cage and the emptiness. Now your teacher is, if you are really coming from that integration, right? Psoas diaphragm, you will expand as you do movement. And you will feel how air rushes in and you feel the coolness in the nostrils and the throat. So then you feel your unity, you feel the sense of being all one. It's the sense of the whole. I love that. When I was in Alexander training, I think I've told you this, that one of our trainers, she was very good, she was also a physical therapist, asked me my third year, she said, how are you liking it? I said, now that we're dealing with the whole, I love it. Because for me, the parts were never that interesting, but when we talked about an integrated whole like this, that was meaningful to me. As you do this foot flexion, stay open to your discoveries. What are you sensing? What comes, and when I say that, I mean what comes into your mind, not what you're going in around and looking around and trying to see, but what presents itself to you. For me, just then I felt the area under my armpits open, widen as I flexed my foot. Let its timing guide you. Beautiful. Beautiful. Be careful of having the legs. Becky, it looks like your legs are a tiny bit splayed. You know, maybe bring them in. Yeah, just a tiny bit. Yes, that's all really, really, really good, people. Najita, that's beautiful. Wow, to see the torso like that open with each movement is just wonderful. Great. So then let's move on with this. And let's move the leg. What we've done many times, we've drawn the leg up from the psoas like this, you know, and then we've extended it down the back of the leg, which is very nice. Today, though, I want to make it a little bit different. And I'm going to have you lift the leg like this from the psoas. Let me see if I can get it better so you see. So there's my leg being lifted, and I'm playing now. I'm doing all sorts of fun things, but I'm letting it come out of my psoas. Just fooling, just playtime. How does this leg move from those inner muscles? No rhyme or reason to our movements, just exploring. As you bring your leg up like this, you should feel how the whole rib cage expands and you breathe if you're not talking. It'll also maybe fatigue your thigh muscles, and that would be very good because then you would feel how they are on a lengthening. They were continually lengthening and moving, which tones the muscles, makes them very lithe and responsive. So all of this is psoas. Just feels like you're a kid again, you know, little baby in crib, observing the legs, playing with legs. Must be quite fun, right? Think about that. I just, one of my students had a second baby and they sent me a video, and, you know, it's, it's so fun to sort of see all this aliveness, the joy of finding this movement, those little legs, kicking the little legs right from the psoas. So you can even do this. It's coming all from the psoas. So fool around. Let it determine it for you. Yes. Oh, it's so beautiful to see. Right? You're letting the psoas guide you, or you're letting, you know, your inner creativity do the work, rather than making it be a structured exercise or an idea of movement. Ooh, I love it. Oh, that's so pretty. The death of us, right, is when we become focused on trying to feel out the right thing. That's excellent, Nick. Excellent. Tene, that's perfect. Perfect. Riley, beautiful, Riley. Yes. Kyle, super duper, super. It's just really just fun. Great. So then we move on with that. And I want to do this. This is what I did. Maybe I did this with you last week, but I did it with the second year students too, and with our little one-on-ones that we've had. Of, you know, I get in my inbox this email from the great, you know, holistic doctor, Andrew Weil, Dr. Weil, and he's saying, relieve stress with the bridge pose. So I was very curious how he was going to show doing the bridge pose. Now look at this, and then you just observe, right? So he showed this, you know, this lovely young woman doing a yoga pose was doing. Obviously, that is certainly one way of doing it, but I would say that that is not working from the psoas, and therefore, if you're not working from the psoas, you are not stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is going to help you relieve stress, get you in a state of flow. So we have that way, the old heave-ho, I'm getting it done. Isn't this what I'm supposed to do? I'm lifting my body. Yes, you are lifting your body. That's exactly right. You are lifting your body. Now here's another way that I've seen people do it. They start to tilt like this. They start to tilt like that. So the moment I do that, all I do is feel tremendous hardness in my muscles. My throat is closed, my larynx is locked. Mainly because the body doesn't work that way. So if you're doing something like this, I don't know if you call it a scoop, whatever, but that would be a pelvic lift, people might say. It's still not this. See if your eye sees a difference. So there I am. I have now been elevated, levitated. That's the psoas, yes. My feet, sensory nerve endings in the feet, communicated to the psoas, you know, gravity communicates to the feet, and I get lifted, direction goes down the back of the leg, through the knees. Hear my voice. Hear my voice. It's way up there. It's way up in that place. My throat is completely free. If I don't talk, I feel my body breathe me. In that state of flow. And I feel like I could just hang here forever. Just, my limbs are free. Everything is just free. No gripping in my muscles, nothing. And then at some point, I decide to come down. No, let's practice that. But let me hear from you first, some of you, what your eye observed in those 3 different ways. Yeah, Nash.
I feel as if I watched at least the second last one you did. I saw your brain send a message to your hips to rise up. Like I saw the mechanical nature of like a body movement. Like it was like, okay, up, down. Whereas opposed to the last way you did it, you levitated off the ground. It was as if a leaf was coming up, and I forgot the body mass of a human being because it didn't look like that. Whereas before I saw your legs have to carry like your weight and your bones and everything.
That is wonderful. I have a Brazilian student, he calls it thought directed. It's exactly what you're saying, right? You saw that. That is excellent. Just excellent. See, the more your eye sees these distinctions, the more you know it's in you. That is really wonderful work. And it feels great. So let's try it, right? Let's experiment with it. And again, you know, you're not talking as you do it, so you can really feel how it stimulates your reflexive inhalation. So gravity stimulates the sensory nerve endings in the muscles of the feet. That's it, Riley. Terrific. Beautiful, Nash. Wow. Sina, top flight. Yes. Tene, gorgeous. Kyle, that's exactly right. Nick, and if it just feels like you could hang there. Yes. Oh, Majita, that is just great, because now you're just hanging, right? And you see how it makes your arms can't help themselves. They start to do the flow, right? They just, yes, that's exactly right. Kyle, that is terrific. So fun to feel sort of, I call them boneless arms, like, whoa. You're making me breathe very deeply. I'm in response to what I'm picking up from you, and it is wonderful. Oh, it's just wonderful. It's almost like I don't want it to stop. And if you don't want it to stop, that's a very good sign. But let's do come down. And then let's do, again, to practice, because you want to, you know, I keep saying this, like, it's not like I want to make you all teachers, but, you know, you will be doing this down the road, for sure. In between your jobs, you know, better than temper. So here we are, legs are up. We want to move the leg to the side. So let me. I don't know how much you can see of me, but it doesn't matter. So I have a choice. I can make a decision to move my leg. What Majida was saying, sort of the thought directed the head to the here doing it. I'm moving my leg. I'm watching it. I am watching it move. Or I can permit it to move from the psoas. And when I do that, I start to feel this sense of movement. Both sides. So we'll do that maybe a couple of times, you know, 3 times maybe on each side, and then we'll do our side to side. And the side to side, you're going to feel it come from all the way through the torso, the inner torso. So you discover this inner spiral and you start to feel that it has a momentum of its own. Every time we're working in this way, we step away from ourselves. We're not inside ourselves. Listen to the freedom of the voice. That's what you have to understand, that it's all about, can we keep all of this going, this integration that gives us this free voice. So let's do that part of it. So we'll start, with, that's right, doing your individuals, and then you're going to do your side to sides.
Sorry, Jean.
Yeah.
I couldn't really see with the camera. Was one leg laying down flat while the other one leg was moving side to side?
They were both, so both together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
When we were doing the individual, yes, one leg was staying.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's really cool. Becky, excellent. Ooh, so I can feel that in your bodies. I can feel it coming from inside your rib cage. Because of course, psoas diaphragm intersects at solar plexus. That's terrific. Sina, really wonderful. And the higher up it goes to underneath, you can even put your thumbs, hook them under your armpits and feel the movement from there. Oh, I love it. So this is a whole inner body being involved, not the outer body parts, it's the inner body. Great. Let's pause that. And here we are, and I'm going to try to get my face. We're going to bring the knee to the chest, right? So if I have a doing, I have that sort of dull look, but I'm lifting it from the psoas. My hands easily come here. And then I permit it, the great it, to do the work. My arms are just completely free. Just completely free. Again, my whole torso breathes me as I'm here, and I feel like I'm right across there. So we'll do that, then maybe we can, let one leg down. That doesn't really matter so much. But again, you see what is lengthening is this elastic band inside of you called a psoas. But again, it's getting you into the right state of mind. And the more you understand that state, you just bring that into everything. So let's have a peek at that, what that looks like. Jay, that's beautiful. Yes. Yes, Nick, that's terrific. Sina, terrific. And you just stay with it. And you know that in time, that psoas muscle is going to start to have length, which is interior flow, interior movement. And it gets so lengthened. When I started, my psoas was so shortened. I had such a lordosis in my lumbar spine, a tightening, a pulling in, a shortening. And then over time, it just gets so lengthened. One day, your knee is at your chest and you're feeling all this interior movement. And it's like, how is this possible? How did that happen? And we'll do it on both legs. Oh, that's wonderful. Jay, that is beautiful the way you brought it up. Yeah. Yes. Sina, that's top flight. Really wonderful. Yes, Sina, that is great. And they're really also understanding the torso, what it means to have a torso. Legs are not the torso. That is excellent work. Excellent work. And I want to do one more thing before we get to our counts, and that is simply, how do we move our heads? Now, remember, when I'm in class with you, I remember doing this with Nick. Remember, I had Nick on the table and we were working with the head, and at first the head was a little like this. So we're trying to feel something called the movement of the head. So there's a disconnection. Listen to my voice. There's a bit of a disconnection. Now, when I take somebody's head, it's always from here. Because again, you know, this is the alignment, right? I mean, it's that. So before I show you that, just put your hand, well, I'll do this, I'll guide you through it. But you know, you can put your hand on the back of your neck and just, are your neck muscles, see, this is fun, why it's fun doing lying down work, are your neck muscles very loose and sort of dripping, you know, off there, hanging towards the table. It's sort of nice just to feel the freedom of the skin there, right? The freedom of the skin and the muscles. Now, we're going to move the head from here. The eyes are going to lead, and you get that. So you see it's coming all the way up through there. And again, my eyes lead. And so it gives me quite a wonderful excursion. And if you know, if you see yourself in your screen and you're focused on the eyes, you see that that's all part of that. You're going to do that on both sides. But and you can, you know, if you feel like it wants to go faster, let it, but know that it's just coming out of the sense of the whole. It's not your head. It's just this wonderful sense of freedom that comes from the whole body. So your turn, and I get to watch. Eyes always precede the movement, so the eyes have to see the dust on the floor, the specks on the floor. And if you feel that you are holding on to your head to try to feel, then you have to figure out how not to do that. That's exactly right. But to step away from your own body and observe it as though it were somebody else's. It's a very much of a feeling of freedom that I really love. Yeah, Kyle, that's great. Heads are funny things. Heads, man, is it hard for us to let go of our heads. And of course, the more you stream up from the earth, the stronger you get. In your integration, the easier it is to let go of the head. But at the beginning, boy, we want to hold on to it for dear life. Teacher takes our heads, we want to take over. So really understand that it's coming from where your hands are in your lower torso. And now you can let it move a little bit faster. Just, you know, like we did our legs, we get into the swing time. That's it. Oof. See, because that part of spine should be very elastic, just like the rest of the spine. It's really good work. Really, 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 really good work. So now let's come back to neutral. And let's do some of our voice and breathing. Hands today on ribs. We always know that when you're in here to here, there is a power, there is an openness, there is an expansion. Why don't we start easy, which is the hiss, which makes it extremely easy. I'm going to put one leg down so you see. I want you to be very good with your hands and feel what is happening in your body as you do it. First, maybe we start just, do your massage because it's important. Area underneath the rib cage, little massage to see if the muscles are soft, just like your neck muscles. Is there a pliability here? Is there a looseness, a freedom? Then this hand is over here on my ribs, on this side, the sides of my ribs. So I just did the hiss. You saw I put a little bit of pressure here. I want to encourage those muscles to go in and up, which of course they do because they intersect with the diaphragm as the diaphragm is sustaining the air in the lungs, right? So that there's no collapse. Those muscles are lengthening. So I'm encouraging that a little bit with my hand. It's superb to do this. The more you work with your own hands, in acting, I don't know if you hear this much, but we would talk a lot about physicalizing. Physicalize it, right? So you are physicalizing here. You are telling your body that you know how it works, what you want to have happen. You are not trying to make, because these are unconscious and voluntary muscles, you're not trying to make it happen, but you are encouraging the right thing. You're really focused on sensing the involuntary expansion of the entire ribcage, the interior involuntary expansion all the way around this big old round thing with every inhalation. So one more. So let's just watch I will just watch now the hiss and how your hands are working. I always like doing the one leg up, or you could do two legs up. I put one leg down so you could see. But mainly I want to see what happens when you're, So encouraging the hiss to come out. So as diaphragm, and then if you've done it from that wonderful inner place of intention, you will trigger spontaneous inhalation. And you'll feel the coolness in the nostrils and the throat. Beautiful. Tene, that's gorgeous. It feels so wonderful to feel that expansion of that whole rib cage. How powerful is that? And you're not doing it. It is doing you. Giving all this fat space to the lungs, letting the lungs, permitting the lungs to fill, be able to fill themselves with air. Remember this, the secrets of the body. If you try to inhale, you will be like putting a pebble on a pyramid. You will take in a tiny amount of air. Just, that's the curse of getting in our way of this magnificent involuntary functioning. Now, you want to build strength in the diaphragm. I know I say this a lot, but I never tire of repeating it because you hear it in a different way every time. We build strength in the diaphragm by demanding that it sustain enough air pressure in the lungs to vibrate the vocal cords and sound is produced. So your mind has to always, always, always understand that that is what sound is. And until it becomes second nature to be engaged with these inner muscles, to support the voice, express support for the voice, we do have to direct and be very clear on intention. So here we go. You should sense that there is an expansion of the ribs as you do it to not make it happen. But if you're really coming from that, and you should really feel that all you're doing is sending air up. You are not making sound, and it should intrigue you, the fact that you are just sending a stream of air that has the potential to vibrate vocal cords, and it feels very strong. It's vibrated air. It'll tickle your lips. The hard part is not trying to make sound, not thinking of sound, but staying, it's a true meditation, right? Staying focused on you are sending up a stream of air. So let's play with that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Ajita, that was perfect. That's excellent. Because as you did that nuance like that, as you did that little surge, I could see and I could feel in my own, Majita, I could feel in my own body an expansion of the ribs. Could you also feel that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is terrific. That was terrific. Everyone fearlessly, not pushing, obviously, right? But that place, as Majita said earlier, of truth, of knowledge. See, truth is knowledge, right? Knowledge of where all of those muscles, how things engage. So, and you can find, see, if you're just sending that stream of air, you find how to stay rooted in your core, in your center, and how much you can, well, the word that comes to my mind is safely be there. You know, so you're always bringing yourself low. You're always bringing yourself down here. You're not creeping up with excitement to make the sound. Let's go again. I'm loving what I'm seeing and hearing. And I think I have you all on, yeah, off mute. So Jay, I don't have you off mute, but I'll do that. Yeah. So let's go again with that. Best ever, Jay. Beautiful. Couple more. Couple more from everyone. Just go ahead. That is so beautiful. So beautiful, so moving. Sorry, my phone. Really exquisitely beautiful. I was just in this place of living it with you. Is wonderful. Let's Anyone have a comment on that? Anything? I hope it felt wonderful to you because it was beautifully done. So, feel how this being is just one vibrating thing. That's all we are, is a source, you know. So again, when you're thinking of the language allowing sound, you know, if we jump to do it, we'll do something up there. You hear it instantly. But if you're but if you know that something is speaking to you, right? There is a sense of that place of knowledge. So let's try with just our hum, then we'll take it into our mas, and then we'll take it into our counts. The source of the cry, right? So as diaphragm, this universal cry, universal connection, yearning for connection. If it makes you feel vulnerable, great, because then you know you're right. If it makes you feel anxious, great, then you know you're right. Because it's hard to touch truth, wholeness, but fearlessly. It's really good. Really good. And hang out for just a second. That is, to me, so moving what I experienced from you. And it felt like you found the kernel of it. And that's what made it so moving. It was like, that is your soul. I mean, I don't want to be waxing poetic here, but to me, that's what I experienced. It was like, that was your soul. Jay, that's the best ever, ever, ever. I know we talked about that last week, but that was just wonderful. Josh, just seeing you, because I hadn't seen you lie down before, but then I saw your hands like this right now. And it was so wonderful to me because there is so much energy streaming out of the fingertip. And I don't think I'd ever seen that, right? That was just so beautiful to see something here, touch it. Wonderful. So that's the essence of sound. That's the essence of who you are, right? Your voice is you, right? And that is it. From that, strength and strength and strength just develops. But finding that little tiny atom is really special, really special. So what if we now take it a little bit bigger? And do our or any variation. But the thing is that you're just staying in. See, it feels like something is coming up and through me. I said to somebody the other day, it's like a seal bouncing a ball off snows, you know? When it's right, it feels like something's outside of you and you're just, you know, doing sort of something like that. So you try, then we'll take it into our counts. That is awesome. That is awesome. Hearing the sense of inner time as you did it was just so beautiful to me and free. Now, hardest thing of all, right? Absolutely hardest thing is now I have words. And how do I keep them? This goes right back to our beginning of class with Nick. You know, getting stuck on the doing of words rather than the di-da-di-da-di-da-di. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how rapidly things can change, right? You're just in that turbulent motor. It's just doing you. That's the art of improvisation, and you have to play with that. So now, hardest thing of all, you have to, but I like this because I like working with mind. Your mind has to divide. Your being has to feel hum. Your being in your ear has to live in hum. You have to live in hum, and then you observe how words are said from that other part of mind called the unconscious, right? Speech is a reflex, conditioned reflex, nothing you need to do. We talk perfectly well without thinking about it all the time. It's only when we have words on a page or an exercise that we get totally stuck in our heads. So you got to divide that old mind, figure it out, and let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3.
That is really beautiful.
Foster.
How are you sharing your? That is terrific, terrific, terrific. Now, what if without my help, you go right in whilst still lying? Oh, and I just want to say something. I hope you are all, when after you do those beautiful rounds of counts, that you're appreciating those moments of witnessing, observing how the body opens you in inhalation. The more you witness that, the more you're also connecting to creative mind, to witness this voluntary inspiration expansion. So never, ever, ever forget that. What if I asked you to go into our little Mikado text? Could you do it? Could you do it? Let's try. Just
Mikado.
together, you know, just do it in your own time. I'll hear it. Don't worry.
Which one's that one?
You can launch right into the rhythm of it. You know, our to sit in solemn silence one. I don't want to give you the rhythm. I want to see if you do it.
You sit in solemn silence on
Silence
the sensation of a
Of
short,
a short, sharp shop with the chip and chippy chopper on a big black block.
block.
So stop for a second. What I felt that it was a little to sit in solemn silence in a dull, dark dock, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chop. And I know you're trying to remember the words, but it was a little like that. To sit in solemn silence on a dull, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block. You know, so my being is enlivened with da dee da pa 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 da pa pa da pa pa, and it's something that's outside of me coming in and drumming me. Da dee da pa 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 da pa. So this is, I think, you know, what we'll continue always to work on. Or, you know, as long as I'm working with you, right, is to, what does it mean to feel enlivened by time? It means that it feels like something's outside of us doing us. And if you watch great drummers, right, they are never drumming. They are not drumming. They are just in live with time and everything is going up. Well, that's the essence of Alexander, right? Everything is up. That's how we work. That's how the body works. So be enlivened with the time of it. Don't try to make the time of it. So here we go. To sit in solemn silence on a dull
duck. Awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock with a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black
Awaiting the
block.
sensation of a short,
Awaiting the
sharp shock from a
sensation of
cheap
a
and
short,
chippy
sharp
chopper on a big black block.
On a big black block.
You sit in solemn silence on a dull,
To
dark
sit in
dock,
silent silence on
awaiting
a
the
dull,
sensation of a
dark
short,
dock. Awaiting
sharp
the
shock from a
sensation
cheap
of
and
a
chippy
shiver
chopper on a
from
big
a
black
cheap and
block.
chippy chopper on a big
To
black
sit in
block.
solemn silence on a dull, dark
To sit in
dock,
silent
awaiting the
silence on a
sensation
dull,
of a short, sharp shock from a
awaiting the
cheap and chippy
sensation of a
chopper on a
short,
big black block.
cheap and chippy chopper on a big black
To
block.
sit in solemn silence on a dull, dark dock, awaiting the
Sit in
sensation of a
silent
short,
silence
sharp
on a
shock
dull,
from a
dark
cheap and
dock.
chippy
Awaiting
chopper
the
on a big
sensation
black
of a
block.
short, sharp shock from a cheap and
Sit in
chippy
solemn
chopper on a
silence on
big
a
black
dull,
block.
dark dock, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and
Sit
chippy
in
chopper
silent
on a
silence on
big
a
black
dark,
block.
awaiting the sensation.
Yes, yes, yes. That's excellent. I'm just wondering if we could do it like individually. That's not going to work. I was thinking of doing that, but that's really excellent. Do a couple more, Josh. That was great. I mean, you're getting. Now, what happens when you're enlivened by time? Well, you know that means you're in those inner muscles that are going to speak to the diaphragm, and it does. The diaphragm does something, you know, unbelievable inside our lungs to vibrate our vocal cords, and out here we hear how you live the text. I know I say that all the time, but you always have to understand that's the process, because we will slip back all the time into thinking it's us. So always the being has to be enlivened by time. That was superb. Let's do it one more time.
To sit in solemn silence on a dull, dark
Solemn
dock.
silence.
Awaiting the
Sit in
sensation
solemn silence on a dull, dark
from a
dock,
cheap and
awaiting the
chippy chopper
sensation of a
on a
short,
black
sharp
block.
shock from a
Awaiting
cheap
the
and chippy
sensation
chopper
of
on a big
a
black
short,
block.
chopper on a
Sit
big
in
black
solemn
block.
silence on a dull, dark dock, awaiting the
Silence
sensation
on a
of a
dull,
short,
dark
sharp
dock.
shock from a
Awaiting the
cheap and
sensation
chippy
of a
chopper
short,
on a
sharp
big
shock
black
from a cheap
block.
and chippy chopper on a big
Sit in
block.
solemn silence on a dull, dark dock, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block.
To
Sit
sit in
in solemn silence
silence
on a dull, dark dock, awaiting the
awaiting the
sensation of a
sensation
short,
of a
sharp
short,
shock from a cheap
from
and
a
chippy
cheap and
chopper on a
chippy
big
chopper on
black
a big
block.
black.
Solemn silence on a dull, dark dock, awaiting the sensation of a short.
Okay. So, very goodness. So we have to be very careful. A couple of ways, right? To sit in solemn silence on a dull, dark duck, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp sob. So there I am trying to feel the text in my throat, trying to feel the time, rather than to sit in solemn silence on a dull, dark duck, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block, big black block, big black block. To sit in solemn silence on a dull, dark duck, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block. See, everything is a result of being impassioned, impulsed, rather than trying to feel it. One more time and play around with that. See what happens. Do you jump high, or can you stay true to being rooted and letting this other weird thing of being impassioned do the work for you?
To sit in solemn silence on a dull, dark duck,
awaiting the sensation of a short,
Silent
sharp
silence on a
shock from a
dull,
cheap and
dark
chippy
duck, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block.
awaiting the sensation of a short,
To
sharp
sit in
shock
solemn
from a
silence
cheap
on a
and
dull,
chippy
dark duck,
chopper on a
awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block.
awaiting the sensation of a
To
short,
sit in
sharp
solemn
shock
silence on a dull, dark
from
duck, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy
to sit in
chopper on a
solemn
big
silence on
black
a dull,
block.
dark duck, awaiting the sensation of a short, sharp shock from a cheap and chippy chopper on a big black block.
Bravo. Gosh, just terrific. Nothing in the throat at all. Jay, that was just terrific. Majita. So it's the, and let's gather around. It's the essence of time, right? It's the propulsion of time. And the more that becomes a reality to you, the better everything becomes. I mean, it just changes how we think of text. It changes everything. Josh, say something about it, and then Jay and Majita. What was
That being in that flow, it makes it easier to be with the music, the time of the music. You really allow yourself to get wrapped up in just time and flow, and thinking of like the sound not even coming, the sound literally coming from the air from the diaphragm as opposed to the throat. Just like it allows it to go anywhere.
It allows it to go anywhere. It comes upon us where to go. Comes upon us where to go. Jay, what was your experience?
Just the shift from what you said about listening. I think I had realized that, you know, the moments where I am listening and then coming back to the motor down here, and then you're just in the water of the rhythm and the sound versus like trying to be in the water.
That's exactly right. Right. And so, you know, you're living that propulsion of time rather than trying to make the propulsion with the words. Majita, tell me your experience.
Well, Jeed, I started laughing because I was messing up the words. And then I heard Jay laugh, and then that made me laugh more. But I found the dance because I laughed. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, this is like fun and not stressful. And I was also able to remember the words a lot easier because I wasn't thinking about the words. I was like, the focus isn't even on the text. The focus is on me finding that like jive and groove inside me. And then because now I wasn't looking for the text, the words came because in truth, it's like, we know it. We've done it a bunch of times. I just had to like epically fail enough to realize how much fun I was having.
Yeah, exactly. Other observations? It was really wonderful work today. Amazing work. Any questions, any observations that you had when you put hands on yourself? How did you experience your body? Talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
When we were doing the hum, or the hum, and then when you said we found the kernel, it was really telling, because as soon as we went to allow, like opening up and allowing that out and the sound, I felt the movement from like under my hand. Like I felt myself jump up to here.
Mm-hmm.
We start moving, and like I had it's like learning how to like be gentle with yourself, to like acknowledge it and then just like slowly like allow it to go back down there, as opposed to me like I don't know, all those old habits of like, you notice it and then you want to stop it. So you grip it and then like it all just shuts down. So it's just like having hands, like own hands on, like allows me to relax in a way and like breathe into it, that it can naturally happen. It's like having your, like, it's not the same obviously, but it's the closest thing to having like hands on from a teacher, I think.
Well, I think that that's really so important. And you know, again, the word fearless comes to mind. It's very hard to observe our habits, right? And especially to notice what happens when we're nervous when doing it. But the more present you are with it, the more, just what Kyle was saying, you can go back down to that lower place. And eventually it becomes second nature to you to experience, hear, understand when your voice is focused, which means that it is coming. Focus of voice is really just coming from support, here to here. You know, it's not an idea of voice, because you could try to get your voice focused and then the whole body could be drooping down. So it's a result. Remember what I said in earlier class, you get to open up the head, the stronger your diaphragm becomes. But it'll become second nature to you to feel like everything is just in this place the whole time, that you're not speaking the words from here, but something is happening in whispered ah territory. Other observations that you had with your hand? Yeah, Nick.
I still have like a hard time watching. Like, I feel like I have kind of a limited range still at this point, and so I have a hard time realizing if I go up, then I'm like, no, try and root yourself, and then I am like forcing some weird down that's just as much tension the other way. Then I'm like, all right, let's balance this out, and then I'm like, no, what? And then I'm stressed and you know. Right. So I don't know. That's just something I'm thinking about. I'm not frustrated. I'm just noticing myself.
What I heard today, why I mentioned how it really felt like the kernel in your soul, is that I heard you have the courage to stay with
yeah.
And you didn't feel compelled to change it. You just were staying with that place. And then so a little bit, because this can happen too, you start to pull yourself up to go high instead of how is it going to teach you? That's what is fun. How is it going to teach you? Not how do you impose. I mean, we all get nervous, we're in class and we want, oh, teacher wants us to go high, and so we push to go high. But how would it be if you could just let yourself stay with that truth, that rootedness, and then let something emerge from that guides you? That's the creative process. That's what makes this work fun and addictive, right? Because you don't know where it's going to come from. It's like, where did that come from? Where did that knowledge come from? But that's it. Any other observations from anyone? Yeah, Sina.
I've had this kind of sensation in the past few weeks. Whenever I really am feeling up, it's like the kind of inner smile becomes like an actual externalized outer smile when I'm really up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to show you today, looking at you all, is that you can't help but that. It's not put on, oh, that's a horrible thing when people do that. Oh, I used to hate that in Alexander Training. Everyone was, hi, oh, it's wonderful. Just horrible, horrible, horrible to me. Maybe not to everyone else, but to me it felt very ungrounded. But you can't help but have that, Alexander called it the direction forward into the cheeks, that you just can't help but have that because it's lifting the back of the throat. When you're in your diaphragm, when you're in your core, when you're in your alignment, you're stretching all those tissues. You're literally opening up on every level, You all are so, yeah, Josh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The song, there's always a place where there's a quick breath. And sometimes those can be like stressful, where it's like, oh no, I gotta breathe. But now this time, and thinking about just allowing it to happen, it's gonna be enough. Like just knowing that it's gonna be enough, and to just allow the diaphragm to do what it's gonna do, allow psoas and and form diaphragm, and that is, and to keep ease in the system as opposed to tightening around that breath.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference.
Because, you know, eventually if you're living the music, breath just comes in. You never plan it and think, oh, I got to take a quick catch breath here. It just breathes you. You know, I mean, you know, you watch these great singers and I mean, they pause for a split second, air is coming in. It's not a big deal of, I have to take air to go the next race. Really terrific work. Really terrific. Anything else from anyone? Josh, thank you for everything that you're doing. I think you're on this whole committee too, right? With Hannah? How is everything going?
We are plugging along. Yeah, we're gonna have to fight this thing as much as we can now. So yeah, we're getting ready to really dig our heels in and do what we got to do to get what we need to get. So
Wow. It's very hard academia is hard, isn't it?
yeah, it's ridiculous, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have been amazing with this, and Hannah and Josh. I mean, you know, you're all working extremely hard, and I think very brilliantly and mindfully and generously. Right? I think that's the key word, isn't it? So, you know.
Thank you, Jean, and always thank you for this. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. I mean, I think they're pretty adamant about no adjuncts. So, but it doesn't matter. We will persevere. We'll figure a way.
Yeah.
Right. All right, gang. So we see you next week. And anyone wants to bring in work, that is terrific. Tana, you look great. All right, kids. See you soon. Bye. And
All right, Jean.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
thank you.